Rahim Al-Haj here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. We're broadcasting live from Albuquerque, New Mexico, as we continue our Community Voices Community Media Tour. Tonight we'll be in Spokane, Washington. We'll be broadcasting from Spokane on Tuesday, and then we'll head to Idaho, Sand Point, and then to Missoula, Montana on Tuesday night. We'll then head on to Bozeman and Helena, to Boise, Idaho, and then we'll be in Los Angeles. And we're looking for stories in all of these places. You can email us at stories@democracynow.org. As we turn now to a major victory in New Mexico, which last month became the second state in the country to repeal the death penalty. After years of struggle by campaigners, the repeal was approved by the New Mexico Senate in February and the House in March. Governor Bill Richardson, who'd previously supported capital punishment, signed the bill into law on March 18th, calling it the most difficult decision in his political life. New Jersey was the first state to repeal the death penalty in 2007 after the Supreme Court reinstated it in 1976. Governor Richardson and the state's leading campaigners were honored at a ceremony at the Colosseum in Rome, and they met with the Pope. The Colosseum is lit up every time a death sentence is commuted or a government bans capital punishment. I'm joined right now from Albuquerque, New Mexico, by two women who've just returned from Italy, who've been at the forefront of the fight to end the death penalty in New Mexico. We're joined by Representative Gail Chasey. She's a New Mexico Democratic state representative from Albuquerque. She's been the leading sponsor of the legislation to abolish the death penalty for, well, I guess the 12 years that she's been in office. And Vicki Elke is with us, also Executive Director of the New Mexico Coalition to Repeal the Death Penalty. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Well, why don't we begin with you, State Representative Chasey? You staked your career on this, 12 years to get rid of the death penalty in New Mexico.
I first met the advocates for the repeal of the death penalty right after my very first legislative session in 1997 at an interim committee. And they were comprised of the faith community, murder victims' families for reconciliation, criminal defense attorneys, people concerned with the justice system. It's even, this coalition is so broad, and it has even included the League of Women Voters. We first introduced a bill in 1999, and every 2 years since then I've carried the bill. So this is the 6th time that I carried it, and we finally had a victory.
Well, this is quite amazing, Vicki Elke. You both came back last night from the Vatican, from Rome. Describe what happened there. You were there with Governor Richardson.
Absolutely. It was amazing. Last Wednesday night, the Colosseum in Rome, like you said, lit up for New Mexico, abolishing the death penalty. And it was quite an amazing event. We had the mayor of Rome and the deputy mayor join us, and we had over 500 people from around Rome that showed up to watch the lighting ceremony, including several New Mexicans who happened to be in Rome vacationing and heard about it on the early evening news and made it down by 8 o'clock to watch it.
How did this happen? I mean, you're standing right behind Governor Richardson. He is shaking the Pope's hand. But Governor Richardson, for years, did not support a repeal of the death penalty. He was for it for many years.
That's true. And what we did this year was we realized that there's a lot of new information out since the last time the legislature in New Mexico saw this bill in 2007. We've had 10 countries who've abolished the death penalty. As you mentioned, New Jersey abolished it later that year in 2007. We've had a number of exonerations from death row, innocent men who have been sentenced to death by juries who have been later found to be innocent, as well as we've had 131 in this country since the 70s now. Number 131 happened last Wednesday when we were in Rome watching the Colosseum light up. We had yet another gentleman from Illinois who was exonerated. And also, we had a great election year here in New Mexico. We elected quite a few new state senators and made it pretty obvious that we had the votes to get the bill passed this time.
Describe how you have organized over time. For people all over the country who are looking right now at New Mexico, whether they're for or against the death penalty, how did you build the momentum?
We built it. The coalition has been around since 1997, and it's been a broad group of organizations who've worked with us. And I think that that's the biggest message: is there's no one message and there's no one messenger. There are plenty. We have the issue of innocence. We have our exonerees that work with us. We have the murder victims' families for reconciliation. These are family members who've been touched by murder, who do not want to see the violence perpetuated. We also have law enforcement who have worked with it and seen that it doesn't work. So it took a variety of coalitions. We have over 140 organizations and 4,000 members. And so it was a broad thing from faith-based communities. Our physical agent is the New Mexico Conference of Churches, and the faith-based community has obviously been a big part of this as well.
State Rep Chasey, what was the role of the Archbishop of New Mexico in this?
In the repeal of the death penalty itself, I would say that because we have such a large number of Catholic senators and representatives, the church has a presence. This does not mean that there's always a party line vote, if you will, with the Catholic Conference. But actually, the Archbishop wasn't out of the country the last few weeks of the session, but it was very clear that the church, the Archbishop's, the Catholic Conference's spokesperson, Alan Sanchez, was very, very present and is an excellent lobbyist and has a very good relationship with the legislators. So I do think that for many of those who supported it, their faith was important. That was not the only reason. As Vicki said, there wasn't just one message and not just one messenger. We didn't have all of the Catholics in the legislature vote for the bill. And many who voted for the bill were from other religions, including the Jewish faith. So we had, I don't want to minimize it or over accentuate it, but the Catholic community of San Egidio, which is based in Rome, works throughout the world on peace initiatives, and they are behind the lighting of the Colosseum. And they did arrange for the meeting with the Pope, between the Pope and the governor, and that's something that takes place at the end of the public audience, but it is in the public square.